Once again, spoiler warning. Gonna talk about spoilers for Joker, so if you haven't seen Joker, probably shouldn't watch this. Also, I feel like this video, more than a spoiler talk, is really useless if you haven't seen Joker, so you should probably watch Joker first. If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. That phrase, that comment, is in every review of Joker on the internet, period. Sometimes it's there with no context whatsoever. Other times the context is, that's why I don't want to watch Jokers, because his backstory should be multiple choice. I always took that phrase as, well, the other movies and the other comic books, they also exist, so they're all just as relevant, but good news, the movie Joker itself is multiple choice, which is why I wanted to make this video. Let's talk about the multiple choices. Also, in addition to the can we all stop using that image in thumbnails? Fuck, the movie just came out. That's a big moment in the movie. Stop putting that in the thumbnails. But after seeing the movie twice, because my review, my spoiler review was like, all right, I saw the movie once, taking it at face value. I was just paying attention to some of the hidden meanings out there, and I've seen a lot of chatter about possible interpretations of Joker. I am by no means some authority figure on it, but I have my thoughts. So why not? It's like a Joker weekend. It's every day a Joker video. So I'm just gonna talk about my thoughts as to some of these interpretations and theories. The funny thing about them is there's no way to prove or disprove them. It's just, you have some circumstantial evidence, go where it takes you. Go where you want it to take you. And it's kind of fun, so let's talk about it. One of the interpretations of this movie is that it was just all in his head. He just imagined all of it. At the very end, when he's in Arkham, he laughs. He's like, I just thought of a joke. The joke being the entire movie we saw. I don't like living in a world where the entire movie just didn't happen. That's it. That's all I got. I don't have any evidence for or against, just in my own personal headcanon. I like the events to have happened. I don't want it all to be imaginary. Then on the other hand, there's a thought that, all right, it's not something he imagined while he was in Arkham at the end. It's something he was remembering when he was in Arkham at the end. Which that doesn't change the logistics of the movie though. I feel like that's A plus B or B plus A. Either we saw everything happen and then at the end he's in Arkham and that's that, or he's in Arkham remembering everything that happens, but it still happened. But with that second scenario, his mental state, his memory, his interpretation it's not as on point. It's not as reliable, so there's that variance of people get to fudge with things, and that makes it fun. I'm totally down with the entire movie of Joker being him remembering the events as he's, dressed in white in the white room, in Arkham. There was that scene where his therapist says earlier on in the movie that he was committed to the mental hospital. It shows him banging his head against the door. That is absolutely how he looked at the end of the movie. I don't know if I'm supposed to break the fourth wall in order to interpret it. It could just be as easy as Todd Phillips was like, all right, we're filming this scene. By the way, while we're filming this scene at the end of the movie, you mind we just film you banging your head against the wall? I think we're gonna use it somewhere. He does look a little different in that scene than he does in the rest of the movie. I don't know if it was a reshoot that they did or it was purposely done because it's supposed to take place sometime later. But there are things in this movie that give credence to the possibility that it is a memory and not everything that happened the way he remembers it. Supposedly, Penny Fleck worked for Thomas Wayne 30 years ago, adopted a kid 30 years ago. How old was the kid? We don't know. If the kid is actually Thomas Wayne's kid, the kid would be 30. Arthur Fleck looks older than 30, but that could give weight to the theory that everything we just saw is him remembering the past. So Arthur Fleck, much older than 30, could be remembering his past, and he's basically projecting himself in these events as the age he is when he's remembering them. Kind of like you ever have a dream or a memory of you in Christmas when you were a kid, but the you in that dream or memory is you now? Well, I've had that happen, so that's how I'm going to see it if I'm going to see it like that. Granted, he does imagine himself on the Murray Show, so if it's a memory within a memory, we're getting into Inception shit. But early on, the movie actually gives you a hint that things you're about to see might not actually be how it happened. Is when he's spinning the sign, the kids jump in, beat him up, smash the sign over his face, and his boss is like, come on, you stole the sign, right? Both times I watched this movie, I was like, okay, I'm gonna look for that sign in his apartment. I couldn't find it, not in the 2 viewings I've had. Gonna try again for a third, but I feel like that sign is the smoking gun. If you see that sign behind his couch or anywhere in his apartment, that's the smoking gun. Now you know, like, okay, we just can't trust anything we see here. Granted, the Zazie Beetz girlfriend thing in which she wasn't actually hanging out with him, that is essentially that. But that's just for that one scene. There's a lot more that makes you go, well, did that happen that way? Like he got a gun from his colleague and then he was like, oh, by the way, it was his gun. And his colleague's like, stop talking out of your ass. Now that's what someone would say if someone pointed a finger at someone else like, no, I got the gun from him. Or maybe he didn't actually get the gun from him. Maybe he got the gun somewhere else. Maybe he just went to the store and bought a gun. I like that thought. I think that's cool. The biggest one for me, and I noticed this my second time watching this movie, is when he meets Thomas Wayne. He sneaks into this theater, he confronts Thomas Wayne. Thomas Wayne's a dick to him, but this is when you find out, oh, Penny might have been crazy. But then Thomas Wayne slugs Arthur, and then walks away, and Arthur leans up against the sink, and the next shot is him leaning up against his counter in his apartment in the same position. That's actually one scene where it's like, did that confrontation happen? And the way it's shot leaves it open to, like, I don't know. You decide. You don't know if what you just saw took place in his head, and that's when he goes over to the fridge and pulls everything out of the fridge and goes into the fridge. So it's possible that his own imagination is driving him nuts. Which brings us to the whole, is Thomas Wayne his father? Is he his father? Is he not? Yeah. To either. The movie gives you circumstantial evidence at best. The best evidence in the movie is the paperwork saying, well, Penny Fleck was crazy and tied her kid to a radiator while her boyfriend beat him up. True, Thomas Wayne might have had that forged. I mean, when Arthur's reading Penny's file, it shows her and she's like, he was always such a happy little boy. And you're like, something happened there. But it does pan over and it shows him in the corner just kind of scowling at her like that, implying that this whole scenario you're seeing is him imagining it. So did it happen that way? It's like if she's mentally ill and she passed that on to her kid genetically, well then he is her kid, which would imply Thomas Wayne is his father. And dude's 30, I guess. Or he was adopted. The abuse caused mental illness, and Thomas Wayne was right about that. He's actually not the father. But yeah, I've had a lot of people in the comment section like, didn't you see the picture of Penny, and on the back it says something like, you have a pretty smile, TW. Thomas Wayne, right? So I was like, okay, there's one thing to do. Match up the handwriting. And the best picture of the handwriting I could get, because you just got to find a letter, right? So T and Thomas. That letter that she wanted to send out to Thomas Wayne, the T is like that really big loop T, whereas on the back of the picture, it's a T, like that. So I was like, okay, Penny did not write the message on the back of the picture because she's crazy or anything. That was someone else who wrote it. That's not exactly a smoking gun for me. You have a cute smile. That's a flirty message. It doesn't mean, oh, by the way, thanks for the sex. That wasn't written on there. When I first saw it, I kind of took it, I was like, all right, he was probably flirting with this chick, and then it turns out she's crazy. And he's like, whoa, stage 5 clinger. No. And, she lost her mind because, she already lost her mind. Or Thomas Wayne had sex with her, and Arthur Fleck is his kid. You don't really know. There's no way to actually get to the bottom of that mystery. The most important thing about Arthur seeing that picture and crumpling it up is the fact that he crumples it up. That really shows right there. He's like, oh, another piece to the puzzle. Don't care. Throws it away. So he legitimately doesn't give a shit anymore. That's my biggest takeaway with that scene anyway. Also, maybe he died in the car wreck and now he's in purgatory. I've heard that one. Don't think so either, because at that point, you don't get Joker. It's not a Joker origin story, really. And also, any movie that ever had someone get into a car wreck and live, you can again go, all right, they died in there, and the rest of the movie is actually, it didn't happen. It's just in their head as their synapses are firing off before they die. That's not a specifically Joker thing. You can do that with a lot of things. Is Thomas Wayne his father? I don't know. One way or another. There's no way to prove it one way or the other. But in my own headcanon, I assume that Thomas Wayne is not his father. His mom was a very sick lady. But who knows? Maybe next year when I'm thinking about it, maybe I'll be like, you know what? This year, for 2020, I'm going to assume Thomas Wayne is his father. If I'm going to interpret this movie, I prefer it to be multiple choice. Is the movie a memory of his as he's in Arkham at the very end of the movie? Quite possibly, actually. Is the movie a memory of his, the reason he was laughing about Bruce Wayne's parents dying because, oh, Batman caught me, I know Batman's identity, and that's really funny. His parents died because of me. You wouldn't get it. That's kind of fun to think about too. Maybe the events in this phase in his life happened exactly how we saw them. Maybe they didn't. I think that's Todd Phillips doing his job. I think Todd Phillips is doing his job very well. Just like giving us a movie that's a cohesive movie, we're watching it go down. Then after the movie, you think about it and you have doubts about certain things. And if you keep pulling on that thread, you get to the point where you're like, I don't know what's real. But that's the feeling he has. That's the feeling you're supposed to feel because he feels that. I enjoy the hell out of that. This movie is definitely open to interpretation. This movie is definitely multiple choice, all of which flies in the face of people who reviewed the movie and said, well, there's nothing here except surface level. Yeah. I disagree. All right, so Joker theories of your interpretation of this movie. What do you think happened? Do you think it's straightforward, which is kind of how I saw the movie at first. I still actually do. I'm like 90% straightforward. There are a couple of moments in here though where I'm like, did that happen? So what do you think? Do you think it didn't happen and he imagined it? Do you think it's from his memory? Do you think it happened exactly how we saw it? Do you think it was 90% what we saw? But there's some fudgery somewhere in there because it does show that he has schizophrenia. Because of that reveal, we now have to doubt a little more than that one scene. It's not like it's isolated to that one incident. Whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.